What in the Sam hell?
Today I'm going to be showing you how to replace the 12-volt battery in a C8 Audi A6 Allroad. Mine is a 2021, but this should apply to all of the 48-volt mild hybrids within the C8 generation from 2019 through 2024. It may also include the mid-cycle refresh, and it may also include the RS6 Avant, but I'm not sure. As always, if you find this video helpful, please give a like and a subscribe. I'd been having issues with my 12-volt battery discharging quickly and the car going into energy management mode within about 10 to 15 minutes on accessory, and that was with the headlights and HVAC both turned off and after being charged overnight. When this happens, a message shows up on the gauge cluster saying there's a low battery charge, and the dealer said that the battery reported as functioning correctly when the BMS was scanned, and even if it weren't, it's considered a wear item and then not covered under warranty. So I decided to just replace it and move on. Spoiler, it's a lot more involved than any car I've had in the past, and if you don't have access to OBD11 or VCDS or Otis, or you're not comfortable removing interior panels, you may want to take the car to a shop, even though it costs a small fortune. Based on this experience, if you're planning to work on your C8 A6, I would recommend getting a copy of the factory service manual or an AllData DIY subscription. I'm not sponsored by them, but I will provide a link in the description to AllData DIY so you could sign up. I don't think I would have ever figured out this procedure without a copy of the service manual. This video is a little bit of a mess because I didn't carefully RTFM before starting and had to backtrack a couple of times. It's edited to show the steps in the correct order, so the car will be jumping back and forth between various states of disassembly. I got pretty frustrated and almost gave up on filming and wasn't always wearing the microphone, so apologies for inconsistent audio and occasional lack of more detailed shots. There are a couple of important things to be aware of, and I'm not responsible if you damage your car trying to do this. While you can easily remove this access panel and see the battery and get to the cables and everything, you cannot actually remove it through this opening. It's held in a tray and can only be removed by sliding it straight out. So the whole side trim panel here has to be removed before the battery will come out. And second, and probably the most critical, the 48-volt and 12-volt systems in these cars are connected to each other and must be separated before disconnecting the 12-volt battery. The service manual refers to this as de-energizing the 48-volt system. And this can only be done using a tool like VCDS or OBD11 or Otis. If you do not do this, all the positive battery cables will still be live even after you've disconnected them from the 12-volt battery. For this video, I'm going to be using VCDS, but OBD11 should work as well. On forums, some people have also reported difficulties re-energizing the 48-volt system if either the 12-volt or 48-volt battery charge is too low. Officially, Audi recommends using a minimum 70 amp continuous battery maintainer during any kind of service, or a 100 amp maintainer if any of the modules are being programmed. If either of the batteries are fully discharged, this may be required before the car will let you perform the re-energizing procedure. I didn't have this issue, but it's something to be aware of, and if you're interested, I will leave an Amazon affiliate link to the 100 amp maintainer I purchased in the description below. The general procedure for replacing the battery seems a little convoluted, but it goes de-energizing the 48-volt system. Then you have to remove the rear bench seat, then this side cushion, and just of note, depending on the configuration of your car, this may have an airbag built into it. Once that's all done, you need to come and remove the floor and this track. From there, you can remove this side trim panel, at which point you can disconnect and remove the battery, then install the new battery, go into VCDS or OBD11, code the new battery, and then re-energize the 48-volt system, clear any low voltage fault codes, and reassemble everything. A couple of other small notes from the service manual. Once this is done, you may need to go and run the automatic open-close functions of all of the windows to reset pinch protection, and the ESP warning light may not go away until the car has been driven a few times. The MQB platform requires security access when accessing certain adaptations, and this was required when accessing the CAN gateway to de-energize the 48-volt system. The access code I used was 20103, and I'll provide a link to the Rostec forum post where I found this code, among many others. To de-energize the 48-volt system, open VCDS, connect to the car, then select Module 19, CAN Gateway, and then go to Security Access and enter the code. Once the code has been accepted, select Adaptation and search for the word locking. The channel is IED 11689 for 48-volt system locking, and the stored value should be regular operation. Change the value to reduce speed and lock. Press Do It, and you should hear a faint click as the contactor opens. The new stored value should be reduced speed and lock. According to the service manual, at least, in order to get the side trim out, this side cushion has to come off. To get this side cushion out, have to remove the rear bench seat. To get the rear bench seat out, the latch anchors have to come out, or at least the plastic bits. To get those out, and here, pop the cover up. You can kind of see there's a little track in there. So to get that pushing down on the latch anchor cover, now that this has been pushed down and kind of moved into that track, it can pull forward, but there is this little plastic flap that prevents it from coming out. So to do that, I'm going to have to give enough room from a piece of metal, and something else I cannot do with just one hand, but this little plastic piece here flips up, and then once that's flipped up, you can slide the plastic piece off of the latch anchor itself. I didn't get any good video removing the rear bench seat, but once those rear latch anchors have been removed, in order to get the bench out, there are 3 big clips, one here, and one here, that need to be popped out. So all you do to do that is grab the seat under that area and pull, and it will pop up. When you do that in all 3 places, the seat can just be lifted up and pulled forward, and you'll have access to the bolt or the nut that you need down here. Okay, once those are out, just grab the front of the seat in 3 places, pulled it up, and it was able to slide forward. But there are a series of connectors here. I believe some of these are for the heated rear seats, and the other maybe an occupancy sensor. Not entirely sure, but there are you have the same set of connections on both sides, so those have to get disconnected, and you gotta remove the bench from the car. Might be able to do it without, but I feel like it might just end up being a bigger pain having it in the way, so I'm just gonna take the whole thing out. Before you can take this side bolster out, the seatbelt guide cover has to be removed. It's pretty easy. It's got 3 clips, so you can just grab, pull, and it will pop right out. So now that the seat is out, I had thought maybe you didn't have to remove the back seat or something like that, but there's no question that you do, because this nut has to come out in order to remove this side padding piece. Okay, now that that nut has been removed, this piece slides forward. I'm not going to try and disconnect it because there is an airbag in here, so just a heads up to be gentle with this thing. And hopefully with it just slid forward, I can get to whatever I need to remove this trim. The next piece that has to come out is right up here. It is a Torx T20. Okay, and next, this rubber grommet right here has to come out. Next is this little Torx T20 back here that has to come out. There's supposed to be a plastic cap on it, but there is not on mine. So in order to get this side trim piece out, this piece of trim has to come up, and the service manual says that this needs to come out. I'm not certain if it does, but I imagine even if it doesn't, it'll make it easier to remove. So this thing is pretty easy. You just grab it from the inside here and pull carefully, and it's just held in with clips. And this can be removed by undoing, I believe there are four of these screws, and they are a Torx T40. I lied, there are 3. Now that those 3 screws are out, go ahead and pull this out and set it to the side. There are 4 clips. There should be one here, one here, one here, and one way over at the end there. I'm going to go ahead and carefully pop those and try and remove the whole side trim piece. I do believe it can only come out partway though, because there's going to be a cable attachment for the seat release. With that popped off, you can see that we have the cable for the rear seat back release and a electrical cable for the luggage compartment lighting. Let me go ahead and just remove that. I went to go and disconnect the negative terminal right here, and as it turns out, there's actually not enough room to remove this. It runs into this computer module right here. So this 13mm nut needs to come off so you can remove this cable from the chassis of the car. One thing that the service manual notes is that you should immediately wrap the end of this cable in electrical tape once it is removed. And that actually kind of makes sense, because instead of just having the terminal on the battery that is unlikely to contact something, that cable could very easily touch something metal. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. The next step, once this negative battery cable has been disconnected, is to go ahead and remove this hold down bracket right here. To do that, you need to remove a 13mm nut right there, and then hiding under these cables is a 13mm bolt. Those both have to come out, and once those come out, you can go ahead and remove this bracket. The bolt is very difficult to get to. I have had luck using an offset wrench, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now that this bracket has been removed, the instructions say that you need to pull the battery out enough so this terminal can clear that module. And the steps involved in that are to first remove this electrical connector. There's a little tab here that pulls out. Then you can push down and pull back. So you can see that locking tab right here. Next step is to go ahead and loosen the terminal clamp, just like any other battery. This thing right here, they call the battery monitor control unit. So you end up just removing this entire assembly from the battery right there. This entire process is a lot easier with the trim panel removed like you're supposed to. Now that the negative cable has been removed, you need to go ahead and disconnect the positive terminal in this whole large fuse block, distribution block thing right here. So to start, go ahead and pop off this cover. It just pops up, comes out. And then we have to get back here and disconnect and loosen that, the nut on the terminal clamp. This has taken me a little while to figure out how to get to because there is almost no room back there, but tiny little 1/4 inch ratchet with a flex head is able to get back there. now that is loosened, this entire assembly should work its way up. Something appears to be clipped on. It's back here, so let's figure out what that is. And these cables are extremely stiff, so I'm not quite sure how to get them out of the way yet. To pull the battery out, I guess just something like that. Okay, and I guess next is just getting the battery out of here. What in the Sam hell? I was about to go ahead and disconnect the seat back release cable, but realized that don't actually need to, because all we need to be able to do is slide the battery out of its tray. These little brackets are what are causing all the headache and why we have to do all that work. But this is perfectly fine to just move forward a little bit. So now that this trim panel has been pushed to the side, the battery is finally free. With that out of the way, it's really easy to remove. They have the little brackets there that hold it in, and so it's just a matter of sliding it straight out and picking it up and sticking the new one in. Now that the battery's been able to come out, have to take this vent hose out so we can move it to the new battery. It just unplugs. Installation of the new battery is going to go in reverse of what we did, hopefully a less convoluted path than what it took to get here. To start, now to put the vent hose back in. There's a tiny vent hole right here. This is the battery that I'm replacing the OEM Varta with, and it is, as near as makes no difference, to the same capacity, 70 amp hours. The OEM was 68 amp hours. It's an H6 size. I had seen suggestions online and even on Napa's website that a larger H8 size may fit in here. It absolutely does not. So hopefully this one will hold up a little better than the OEM one did. And the big thing to note, right, is that this will have to be coded to the car, and the Varta batteries have a BEM code. This does not. But either through VCDS or OBD11, put in the capacity and change the serial number so the car knows that a new battery's been put in and it can go through its learning process. To continue installing the battery, I'm going to start by reconnecting the positive cables to the positive terminal on the battery. Then going to reconnect the vent hose to the little port just to the right of the battery, slide it back in a little bit, then reattach the negative cable to the negative terminal of the battery, finish sliding the battery back in, then clamp it in place by reinstalling the mounting bracket. One thing to note that I missed the first time I was hooking this back up, I had this tilted out at an angle. It's a tight fit, so this inner lip should be sitting flush on this ledge, otherwise it will stick out farther than it's supposed to. It looks like even though this battery does have the two holes for this cover on the side here, there are no recesses for those tabs to clip into. Hopefully that doesn't pop loose over time. I may put some tape on it just to be sure. With both terminals reattached, I'm going to slide the battery back in. You can see this battery has a little bit more lateral play than the OEM one did. But that shouldn't be an issue once the hold down bracket is installed. Go ahead and put that back in. The 13mm bolt. And this is much, much easier without that side trim panel. and the 13mm nut. Push everything back. Now that that bracket is installed, the battery is nice and secure, so that lateral movement doesn't seem to be causing any issues. I'm going to go ahead and double check that the vent hose is still properly installed. Next, need to finish securing the battery, reattach its tie down. Do that by pushing the strap back through this cam. And then there is right here a little hook that goes into. Just gonna go and pull this nice and snug. Now that the battery has been fully mounted, need to finish connecting it to the car. I'm going to take the electrical tape off of the negative terminal and reinstall it on the stud and reinstall the nut. It's a 13mm nut. Let's go and secure that down. And the battery is reconnected. To code the new battery, I followed a video by Charles from The Humble Mechanic, which I'll link below, and I highly recommend going and watching that video for more details on the entire procedure that I'm not covering here. To do this, you're going to want to open up VCDS and connect to the car. Then select Module 19, CAN Gateway. Select Adaptation, and then search for the word battery. We're going to change three things. The first is the rated battery capacity. If it is changed, update it. In my case, that's 70 amp hours, and select Do It. Next, we are going to update the manufacturer. I don't know if you need to do this. According to the video from Charles, you can set it to UNK for unknown, because this is not Varta like the OEM one was. And then we have to update the serial number. And updating the serial number can be done with all ones. You could change just one digit. This is what allows the car to know that a new battery has been put in and to go through a learning procedure. Next, you'll have to re-energize the 48-volt system. This is similar to the procedure for de-energizing the system, though something I ran into is that form posts seem to say the new value should be set to regular operation, but this was incorrect, and all I got were messages saying that conditions were not met. The correct selection is release, after which the new stored value will be regular operation. I got the 48-volt system and 12-volt systems reconnected. So now that that's done, I'm going to go and just start putting things back together in the reverse order they were taken apart, starting by reconnecting this light and then snapping this panel back into place. So I just realized that I have a one of the spring clips right there is still disconnected or came off of the panel, so I got to pop that out and reattach it to the plastic panel. Now going to reinstall the T20 that goes right in here. And then move on to the other T20 that goes up there. Okay, that panel is nice and secure. Next, going to go and reinstall this rubber grommet. Now we're going to go ahead and reinstall the side panel. There are a set of hooks up here. This needs to go into, let's see, 2 holes here and here. Go in and just be slid up. So I had that a little bit incorrect. I don't want to take it back out, but with the 2 hooks, you bring the whole thing out at an angle, hook them in, and then rotate it down. And down here, you have to slide the metal bracket onto the stud, and we'll reinstall the nut. I had not gotten a video of this when I was taking it off, but the seatbelt guide plastic piece here needs to get reinstalled. There are a few different clip locations. It's pretty easy. Got the bench seat put back in the car. You need to go to both sides and reconnect the 2 electrical connectors. There is a little clip here for this wire to go onto that cable. So, trying to figure out where this cable goes. Looks like they do have a channel molded in to the cushion. Putting the rear bench back in is just the reverse of taking it out. It can be a little bit of a trick to get the seatbelt buckles through the holes in the seat, but once you do, you can slide the seat back and then go to the 3 clip locations, push down, you'll hear them click in place. Now the latch covers have to go back in. Don't have to mess with this little tab, although it does lock into place once it's in. So with that track right there, I'm going to slide that through, or slide the bar through the track, and we'll work it up and down. And it will seem like it's in, but it has not quite seated in. It's not quite seated in, and it takes a little bit of fighting to get that in place. Now that's locked in place. Push that tab back down, and the latch anchor is in. You just have to put the covers on them. You need to go ahead and reseat the seal for the trunk lid. Then go ahead and reinstall the rail. From there, just have to reinstall this piece of trim. Just like before, there are 4 clips. So set it in place and snap those clips down. And actually, you're going to have to get it underneath this piece of seal. So I think I'm going to pull the seal up just to make it easier. Okay, so that's in place. I'll put the seal back in. And then all that's left is to put the tray that covers the spare tire and then the floor back in, and we are done. I lied, we're not quite done. This had originally been wrapped around the cables. I think it is a temperature sensor. And then we have the side cover has the 12-volt port on it. So that just gets plugged in. And not pushed out. And then this has two tabs down here. These two tabs go into those two slots. And it snaps back in. And now we're done.